So guys, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is directed by Tobe Hooper, the man who brought us the original, the man who terrified us in the original film, that created new and different ways of building this documentary-style film. And now we have an 80s typical slasher with a lot of humor in it. But is it typical? Well, I think that's a discussion, and I guess it depends on who you are. Well, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is an interesting franchise because none of its entries are the same. Every one is very different from each other. So unlike a franchise like Friday the 13th, where the first 4 films kind of flow seamless because of the same tone and the same shot style and the same effects style and kind of the same atmosphere, this one feels nothing like the first movie. And if you do a double feature, it's the most jarring thing you could ever do. Now, on the flip side of things, it makes it a very different viewing experience than the original, and that's what Tobe Hooper was going for. Tobe had said he had seen slashers become this big bombastic thing where everybody's just this body count and just lopping bodies and everything, and he said, well, maybe I'm going to make a little bit of a satire on the genre. But this film, it's hard to tell sometimes if it's completely satirical or completely humorous in the sense that we're just supposed to laugh along the ride as we see where this new film goes.
Just keep driving! Come on! Hey, let's go! Come on! What you doing? God damn it! What you got there? What? Come on, what is that? I don't believe it! Come on!
The original film, Tobe had said in interviews, was supposed to be partially a comedy. Now, many people who view that film don't have any idea what he's talking about because that movie is terrifying. And this film, though, if he says that, I absolutely believe that. One thing I do have to say about this film, though, before I really get into the nitty-gritty, is the special effects in this film are incredible. Tom Savini and the team did a great job. That opening scene is still an incredible scene of the 2 yuppies driving down the road and getting attacked by Leatherface. I really love that scene. Then the film kind of gets into this pace, leading into this radio station and understanding what's going on, and then there's the attack at the radio station.
And maybe the new music's
And then from there is where my problems of the film start. Up into this point, I really like every minute of this film. I love the first act of this film. I think it's really good. It sets some good stuff up, and I'm up for wherever this film's going. But one of the major problems this film had was they were writing this film as they were shooting it. So there was no kind of, okay, we know where we're going, we know what we're setting up, we know how this thing's going, we know it makes sense, we know it works. This was, hey, just keep shooting what I'm writing, keep shooting that, throw it out there, keep shooting it. And it really kills the pacing of this film, and it kills Tobe Hooper's direction. I think Tobe is a great director when he's allowed to be. And in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when he didn't have a studio breathing down his throat, he was able to really build this great tension and this great atmosphere of a film. And even with a film like Poltergeist, where he was working very hand-in-hand with Steven Spielberg, his film was part of a 3-picture deal with Cannon Releasing, and was part of his contract to do this film. This was kind of the thing they really wanted to get out of it because they saw huge potential. And as a production company that was kind of failing at the time, they were looking for whatever could pull them out of the fire. And this film did make money, but nowhere near the money the original made because it didn't capture that sense of this complete unique world that works for most people. And I feel like this film can be kind of a mess due to the fact that it was being written as it was being shot. And while the first third feels like it really works, in the second act it starts getting off the rails. And I'm going to be honest here, I feel like because the writing was so rushed, the film doesn't completely work. Now, I don't think this is a bad movie, and I know this is kind of ruining my score here, but I gotta give some positives and some negatives, and I think the negatives is the up and down direction due to the up and down writing because of it being hurried along. The pacing's all over the place. This film kind of forgets what it is in different spots and kind of tries different things. But my biggest negative for this film is the fact that it cut one of its best scenes out. There's a sequence in which the van it drives around and they go kill a whole bunch of sports fans at sporting events. And we're talking about body counts of dozens of people. And it's a really cool scene. Tom Savini effects, everything you really want. I'm stunned that this hasn't been really remastered and put into the film. And they said, oh, it would have hurt its pacing. But this film has basic problems as it is. It has all sorts of problems as it is. But this scene, I think, it really give a great, interesting moment in a period where the second act of this film has nothing happening. It's just pure setup, pure setting them up for the third act. And it's weird where the second act of this film really isn't long. It's kind of, you have the first act set up, and then the second act's like, okay, now they're at this place, and Leatherface and the people are looking for, they don't know they're there. And Dennis Hopper's gonna fight them with chainsaws, and reading this and speaking this is the most insane thing I've ever done, because this movie is absolute insanity. But this is like the Evil Dead 2 to Texas Chainsaw's Evil Dead. This is definitely a bonkers, off-the-wall film, but if you're a fan of that and you're a fan of Evil Dead 2, I actually think the tone of this movie kind of fits similar to that. It's this weird 80s slasher comedy strange thing that only a guy like Tobe Hooper could do. So I honestly think this movie's pretty good. I think it's a little forgettable because of how it kind of falls apart in the second act, and then it goes completely off the wall in the third act. So you've got this film that really works in the first act. Second act, it starts getting off railed, and then the third one just goes so crazy that it almost feels like it's not quite deserved, and I can see how a lot of people don't like this film because of that. On the flip side, there's a lot to like about this film. There's a lot of crazy good effects. Tobe Hooper's direction in the first act is really, really good, especially for a sequel slasher. Getting a guy like Tobe Hooper in there is much better than replacing him with any of the generic people who directed the Friday the 13th movies. And I enjoy those films, and I enjoy this film, and I'm going to give this film a 3.5 out of 5. I think while it has its problems and its issues, some of the moments in this film are just so enjoyable that they elevate it from being an average film, in my opinion. I do see the problems, but I think if you can look past it, this is definitely a very unique viewing experience. So guys, what do you think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2? You think it's a crazy off-the-wall film that you love? Is it too crazy for you? Let me know down below. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button, and you'll be back for another video. And if you like this one, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. I like honesty. So guys, definitely come back for more videos in the future. I hope you like this one, and I hope to see you again in the next one.